Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa. Here we are with Chef Ken Fornataro, and today we're making our very own rice koji.
That's true.
So why would somebody want to make this at home?
Well, first of all, it's actually rather easy to do. And secondly, you can determine how much you actually want to make and not have to worry about cost. Because most of the expense in what you're making comes really from the koji itself. And this is koji we made earlier, actually.
It's beautiful.
Right? And as you can see, it's coated very finely with just the aspergillus.
Right, it has almost a little chalky feel to it.
This is gorgeous stuff, right?
Gorgeous.
But this bowl of koji would probably cost you like 5 times the amount that it would cost if you just made it yourself.
Make it at home. Okay, so there's
and
a good
now,
reason.
especially koji spores, or what's called tane koji, here are readily available not only online, but also from certain stores, like Calustian's, for example, in New York, that famous store, has a selection of koji spores, not just one type. They've got many types.
So this tiny amount of spores can make how much rice koji?
That's not a tiny amount of spores, actually. That's a huge amount of spores, right? Traditionally, you would say you would use a gram of koji spores to a kilo of whatever you're using as a substrate, in this case, rice. We're not using a kilo, though, so this is about maybe a quarter of a gram.
Okay.
And so you don't have to obsess about it, right? If you add like a quarter of this and so much less, it'll be fine.
It'll still be koji.
Yes,
wow.
Definitely.
Okay.
I mean, basically, it wants to grow, it wants to eat, right? And that's the important thing about what we're going to show you now, is that if your rice is wet, when you put this on, mold likes water.
Right. Of course,
and
humidity,
so
yes.
if you're going to give it a free meal like that, it's not going to go into the center of your rice. It's what you really want it to do, because as it penetrates, it creates more and more of the enzymes that you're looking for.
Okay, so you want it to have to kind of dig in to get where it's going.
That's right.
So earlier today, you washed some Japanese sushi rice.
Yes.
And you washed it all the way till the water ran clear, and then soaked it.
And then we let it dry very well, actually, because you want that rice to be as dry as you possibly can, and then you want to steam it.
Okay.
And you cannot boil it.
Okay, because then it'll be just too wet.
Yeah, it has to be steamed, because what you want to happen is the rice needs to become gelatinized, okay? And that will happen better if the hot vapors go through the rice.
Okay.
Because if you just boil it, it would create like an outer gum, and that would not be good.
So when it's gelatinized, it's kind of soft?
Yeah, it's translucent, and you can easily press it between your fingers, but it is definitely not mushy.
Okay. Oh.
And what you'll see,
Look at that.
you want it to cool down until it's about 98 degrees Fahrenheit.
Do you actually take its temperature?
Yeah, you could if you like. Usually, though, I mean,
consider
hundreds of years ago, they didn't have thermometers.
That's true. So by feel.
If this feels comfortable enough to hold,
it really is translucent.
Right? Yeah. If you look at it and take like one little individual grain, you should be able to see how it's translucent.
Yeah.
We'll like squeeze it, but that's definitely not mushy.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, it does yield a little. We're going to like fluff it up just to help it.
Okay, do we take the
yeah.
cloth out?
Yeah, just so we can make sure. That's all right. It's all on the counter, right? Not bad, right? You think, like,
Is this a special rice cloth?
Yeah, they have special rice steaming cloths. You would put this in your rice steamer.
Okay.
And so your rice is here. And basically what we're going to do is this.
Okay.
Just very gently like break it up, right? And as you can see on the counter, right, what's happening is the water, as you see it, right, is actually evaporating.
Oh, look at that. It is. Yeah.
That's what you want.
This counter is
a good way to see it. You don't want water on your rice.
Okay.
Play with your rice.
Play with your rice. It's such a beautiful color. It's kind of golden. Little pearls.
When it gets down to the point where I mean, this feels pretty comfortable, right?
Yeah, oh sure. It feels probably about somewhere in the 90s, maybe, yeah.
And even then, well, let's say this rice went down to like 72 degrees Fahrenheit, that'd be okay.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be,
No.
you just don't want it to be still steaming hot.
And you also don't want it to be cold.
Okay.
Because it can get to the point where you'd have to take extra special measures to get the temperature back up.
Because the mold won't be activated if it's so cold?
Yeah, and basically mold doesn't like cold all that much.
Okay.
I find that people who are just starting off, who may not get their rice dry enough for this particular type of koji, and this is aspergillus oryzae, you would want to use a little bit of our finely ground up rice powder. This is the same exact rice.
Okay, so the sushi rice, but uncooked.
But very finely powdered. If this is the first time you're making it, or
it is for me.
Oh, there you go. So we're going to take our spores, put them directly into our rice powder, and be careful. You don't want to do this in a draft, right?
You don't want to breathe that in.
You don't want to inhale rice
Okay.
spores or any spores of any kind, right?
Okay.
And as you can see, right? So we're just going to very slightly, mix it around. We're like going to sift it over the rice. That will actually also help to mix them up.
Okay.
And it will also help to get as evenly possible distributed
over
on
this
the
rice. Okay.
Right? It's kind of fun, actually, if you want to play around. I mean, this is very romanticizing, like, type of thing.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, yeah, like it's like a little shaker.
How much fun is that?
That is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so spread it evenly around.
Yeah, that's right. Very simple way to make sure that every little grain of rice is coated.
Should we mix it in?
Sure.
Okay.
See how it's like
grainy, yeah.
No moisture that you can actually feel.
No, not at all.
But inside of the rice, and that's why we steamed it. Actually.
Okay, so the water penetrated the rice, but didn't make it mushy at all.
The center of there.
Okay.
All right, that's the important point.
The water's in the rice.
Your mold has to work. There's no free lunches here.
Okay.
Right? And so what we do, however, to make sure that it doesn't get dried out, is we're going to wrap this.
Okay.
In not only your traditional bundle. Usually when you're making koji, it's all about bundling up and piling up, and then to dissipate the heat that gets created when you make it, like say after the first 12 hours, after we put this into our special incubator, we're going to like take it out and do this again all over again.
Spread it out again, okay.
There's enough spores on here that if this is your first time, you'd have to really mess up pretty badly.
Okay, so is there such a thing as like too much? Do you want to?
Well, if you add a lot of spores to it, first you're wasting spores.
Right.
Okay. And if we were making a special kind of koji, where we wanted the spores really to activate and like, to wake up and really a lot of new spores be created, we could only use a tiny, tiny little amount. And it would eventually, over a period of like 48 hours, right? It would do that. We put so many spores on this though. This, after 12 hours, you're going to see a white coating.
Like on the
finished
one.
This is like really very, very well coated.
Okay.
Right?
So but this will start to grow already in 12
It almost looks like a light dusting.
Okay.
Right?
So do we put it in the bundle now?
Yeah. What we did for this, actually, we put a little plastic.
Just so it won't stick to the cloth, right?
And also so that for the first 12 hours, we want to maintain any moisture that's in this rice.
Okay.
All right? The Japanese would say the spores and the koji are going to acquaint themselves with each other.
Acquaint themselves. I like that. Okay. They're getting acquainted.
You like make a little...
Okay, little pouch.
Yep.
Okay.
And then you're going to bundle it up.
Okay.
But before we do that, though, we're going to get our thermometer probe.
Oh, okay.
Right, and we're going to stick it right in the middle of the bundle.
Yeah.
So we can monitor it once we put it into our incubation chamber. It's like a store.
Okay.
You're getting a baby to go in.
Baby in there,
right?
your little bundle.
And that's here. We have it already
this
set up.
This is your homemade incubator.
Right, this is so easy. All you need is like a container like this, a food safe plastic container. We have a sous vide stick inside it. Just dump this right in here, right? And we're going to take our temperature probe, stick it right in the middle. This is at 78 degrees, right?
Okay, so it cooled off a lot from when we pulled it out of the steamer.
That's right. And now, probably like 3 or 4 hours, when we come back and check, this will be at least 85 degrees,
Okay.
if not hotter.
All right, so very gradually it's going to warm
Yeah,
up. Okay.
and that's what we want.
So we're going to let our koji get acquainted with the steamed rice. And we have nothing to do but wait for 12 hours, right?
No babysitting necessary.
It's surprisingly easy to set up an inoculation chamber at home. You can make koji rice on a heating pad, in a bread proofer, or a food dehydrator. Ken uses an immersion circulator in a pot of water, which maintains an even temperature and also constant humidity. Another useful option is a plug-in cooler that also warms its contents.
We're at 12 hours of our rice koji making. We basically steamed the rice, dried it off, and inoculated it with our koji spores, and wrapped it up in a little bundle so it would be nice and warm and stay moist, and the mold would start to grow. And what you're going to see is that it indeed has been growing. The temperature is maintained at a steady 96 degrees Fahrenheit, which is excellent. We're going to open it up, and what you'll see is that after only 12 hours, it's already looking dusted, and it's giving off a little warmth as well. It has an amazing ambrosia type of smell, incredibly seductive. We're going to actually lay this out in a new container. In this, there's enough moisture here. I can feel it, just a little, so that we don't really have to worry about that part of it anymore. So you don't even have to cover it back up. Look at that. You can tell just by the smell of this now at 12 hours that this is really going to be fragrant, powerful koji. And that is because we did add more spores than we usually do. And by 12 hours when I come back, you'll see that this is going to be almost like beginning to clump together into what's called a mycelial mat. Love it. Once you make koji yourself, you'll be craving the smell. It's like, I have to make this koji.
Ken took the incubator back to his lab for the last 12 hours of inoculation. That final stage has to be carefully monitored. Yellowing of the rice indicates that the spores are starting to flower, which can alter the flavor, so you'll want to cool it down quickly if you see that happening. Ken sent us a video of our batch, which came out great. The koji rice should be matted like a Rice Krispie treat, with all the koji filaments binding it together. These chunks of koji rice can be stored in the refrigerator for up to 10 days, or broken up and dried in a low-temperature dehydrator for longer storage. Ken likes to use his koji while it's still very fresh to make amasake and shio koji. You can see us making these flavorful enzyme activators in Koji Part 2, making amasake and shio koji. Look for all kinds of delicious recipes using these ingredients in our Asian fermentation series of cultured and cured videos with Chef Ken Fornataro.